Welcome. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Board of Education of November 1st, 2022. Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Section 2.3 is reiteration of executive session motions.
We entered executive session to discuss the potential employment of a particular person.
Thank you. 2.4 is opening remarks. So again, welcome everybody. It's nice to see some familiar faces. Happy Halloween to everybody. I know I had a very happy Halloween, and I think our school district has had a very happy Halloween. And a return to many traditions, and I think some new traditions, and a lot of fun. So that was great. I want to thank Jackie DeAngelis is joining the district math committee. So a big thank you to her for volunteering to do that. And also Natalie Marrero is going to be helping with the staff engagement survey, so thank you for that. I had the real pleasure of speaking with the Friends of Pelham Sports last week, and I think it's too early to announce anything yet, but they have some very exciting ideas. So big thanks to them, and looking forward to working together. We also had a very productive board coffee on October 28th. We talked about French, quizzes and tests, the importance of feedback from teachers, and we discussed the school calendar and early release days. And it was very nice. We got a lot of kudos for many teachers, many principals. There was a lot of appreciation from parents for the wonderful work that's going on in the district. So next, 3, approval of the minutes. Maybe we can do a consent agenda of 3.1 and 3.2, the minutes from our October 18th and 11th meetings. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. And 4.1 is the superintendent's report.
Great, yes, thank you. And I echo Michael's enjoyment of Halloween. It was yesterday was a lot of fun. A lot of fun for the kids, a lot of fun for the staff. It was really great to bring back the elementary Halloween parades. I know the communities and neighborhoods really enjoyed seeing that, and the weather held off perfectly. So it was great fun. And also we had our annual haunted house back, I think almost in normal form. What we're realizing is that kids are coming out for everything. So I think we had the biggest, they estimated about 700 kids turned out to attend the haunted house, which is bigger, I think, than has ever occurred in the past. So that was really exciting. Number of student recognitions to begin with tonight that we're just always pleased to see our students achieving at such high levels. Starting with music. Congratulations to students and families under the directions of Ms. Abehouse, Mr. von Bachhoff, Mr. Fraungen, our orchestra teacher for Dr. Zanke, who is out on leave right now. Really exciting that the following students were chosen to perform in the area all-state chorus, band, and orchestra, respectively, coming up on November 5th at White Plains High School. They were chosen based on their scores at NYSSMA, the New York State School Music Association Solo Festival. In chorus, that was Kristen Abanyega, Audrey Levinson, Juliana Liegi, Maddie Lyons, and Matt Mikhailoff. More for chorus as well. These are probably by voice groups, even though they're not specified which. Kezia Ranger, Leah Sherbansky, and Elizabeth Zusin, Annie Zusin, and Grace Kami, all for chorus. In band, Andrew Scott and Aiden Sinha. And in orchestra, Naya Gonzalez-Breen, Emma Van Prague, Hina Way, and Emil Demarius. Also, additionally, Kristen Abanyega was chosen as an alternate for All-State Chorus, which is huge. Hundreds of students around all of New York State compete for that honor. We're very proud of all of our music students for their accomplishments and recognitions. Also wanted to recognize Maddie Horner, a 10th grade student who qualified for the New York State Physical, I forget the whole full acronym, New York State Public High School Athletic Association meet qualifier. She's currently ranked second in the fly in Section 1. So she'll be representing Pelham at the upcoming state meet November 18th and 19th at the Aquatic Center upstate. So congratulations to Maddie for that great accomplishment. Maddie was also recognized along with Lauren Rococo for their outstanding performance in their study of Italian on October 17th at the Westchester County Executive Proclamation Ceremony at Brewster High School. This was part of the Italian Heritage and Culture Month. The theme for this year's celebration was Italian and Italian-American Nobel Prize laureates. So we're thrilled that they were part of this, and this was an event that was put on by Westchester County and our county legislator being part of that. We're very proud of them for being recognized at that level. And this is forensic speech season, so we're going to start hearing regular recognitions of our students there. We'll continue to be proud of their work. So we had 3 finalists this past Saturday. Actually, that was a weekend ago at Bronx Science. Pelham Memorial High School Forensic Speech Team competed at the Sister Raymond Memorial Invitational Tournament held in person in the Bronx. Some of the events are still virtual, but many of them are going back to in person. So it was in person at Bronx High School of Science. So congratulations go to the following juniors for their excellence in congressional debate. Surush Rossi as a finalist, Isaac Leaf as in 8th place, and Spencer Conrad in 3rd place. Because of their finish, all 3 speakers have moved one step closer to qualifying for the New York State Championship. So very proud of their work in forensic speech. And thank you to their advisors, of course, Mr. Beck and Mr. Schleifer for the great work they do. I just want to provide an update on a couple other topics of interest that have come up. Thanks once more to John Sabalos and to Alicia DeMastro for their work session last time. I think most of us, right immediately within the week, found some themes and topics coming up that really linked very seamlessly with the information that was shared. So I just wanted to thank them and the teachers that came out and did that work for us last time. We look forward to 2 more work sessions coming up, one in December about excellence in the Pelham Public Schools, and then one about vision of the high school coming in January. So we had a preview of some of that today with Mr. Berkowitz. I'm really excited about what the team is putting together for that. I know recently field use has been a topic that has been on our minds. Just wanted to let folks know that we do, I go over the meet with Mr. Hodge on a weekly basis to talk about what's going on in athletics, and certainly have reviewed any concerns around that area. As a district, we have been and remain committed to equity and balance in our scheduling, whether that's from a Title I perspective or whether it's particular sports. There's a lot that goes into into the scheduling, and we value all of our student athletes and work diligently to make sure that they all have equal access to our fields, to practice time and game space and facilities. It is unusual for us to have the 2 turf fields, which has been actually a real blessing. So balancing out who goes where is really a fluid thing that happens on a daily basis, and we're thankful to have the additional turf field to help with that. I want to be really clear that we are not giving preferential treatment to any particular teams. Very often, there's a lot of things that go into the schedules. There always are a number of factors that lead to last-minute changes. I think we've seen probably more last-minute changes in the last couple of years because the things that often influence those changes have to do a lot with busing and referee shortages. Where there's busing problems, whether it's mechanical problems or bus driver problems, that has impacted sports schedules for all schools, probably statewide, but definitely in the region. There's also been a referee shortage that has also impacted things. So those cause changes that have trickle-down effects very often. There are other times as well where there may be just conflicts, schedule conflicts with the school, with coaches, that may necessitate changes, or just game cancellations for a variety of, it could even be COVID related. We're still seeing some of that. So very often, one change may cause a domino effect that may affect multiple sports. And students may not always hear all the reasons and rationale behind that. But we have and continue to work to be as proactive as possible, to be as flexible as possible, to accommodate the coaches' requests as to when and where they would like those practices to occur, because changes impact their personal lives and balancing their own work schedules and outside schedules. We do encourage students, athletes, parents that have questions to reach out to their coach to understand the why. And if they don't have that information, certainly reach out to Mr. Hodge, and we will continue to keep that commitment of working to maintain as much balance as possible. The one thing I did want to say, I'm not going to necessarily go point by point through things that may or may not be out there. If folks have questions, they can speak to Mr. Hodge directly. But I will say we have never canceled a game to enable a practice. If there was a game cancellation, there was a reason for the game cancellation, and that preceded any other shift that happened. So I just wanted to be clear about that, because I think there was some speculation as to that. We never would cancel a game to enable a team to practice. So I just wanted to put that out there. A couple other pieces. I know we did unfortunately have, as folks know from the email that I put out, I think it was about a week ago, we did have a swastika found here in the school. We continue to work regularly within each of the schools on building cultural competency. I know, in addition to the email that was sent out to families, Mr. Berkowitz did email the students. That was one lesson that we've learned over the years, is especially at times like this, we want our students to be as aware and engaged as possible, because they are the eyes and ears, and this is their school. We want them to be involved. He also did check in with counselors and some of the various student groups that may, to see, if there were any concerns that needed follow-up. I had the opportunity to meet very recently with Rabbi Resnick, and to just kind of reach out and have a strong partnership. So I did also let him know that had happened, and he appreciated the heads up, and I know was going to work to check in with his students in his congregation to make sure that they were supported appropriately. And I know that one thing, too, I'm hoping to put something out in the near future about it. Dr. Bowman is working with Dr. Thompson the state has asked school districts to report on their Holocaust education. And I think it's a great opportunity for us to really review and to bring to the fore the work that we've been doing. So I know that there's strong work around that in our district traditionally. I know at the middle school in particular, a lot of work around the No Place for Hate work. That is ongoing work, that is continuing work. So I'm hoping to be able to put just some information out in the near future about that, because I think what we realize, whether it's through COVID or whether it's just the normal part of schools, there's ongoing work that we're doing all the time that people just often don't know about. And we want to make sure that we're highlighting and sharing that with our families to know the work is ongoing. This is a priority. It's important, and it's embedded in what we do every day. So look forward to that. I know I see a lot of friends with us tonight, and I mean that genuinely, who are supportive of that work. So we hope to just be providing that information out to you in the near future so you can understand and really be up to speed on what we're doing. Finally, related to that, we have been, I think as a lot of people know, we've been in the process of trying to find the right person to become DI coordinator. We have posted for the position a couple times, and at this point, we just haven't had anyone be able to step forward into that role, and the school year's up and running now, so I think folks are into their teaching assignments. I don't think how we envisioned it originally is going to happen at this point in time. So we're talking with the administrative team, we're talking with the board about a different approach to how we want to find someone to help lead that work. And it may be a consultant, it may be maybe tapping a different model of approach of how we want to do that. So we're having those conversations, looking for more information, and we'll be hoping to come back to the board at our next meeting with an update on where we are with those conversations. And that rounds out my report for tonight. Thank you. Oh, one more thing I did want to say. We are in the process of finalizing the assistant principal search. For those at the high school, we're hoping to come with a recommendation to the board at our meeting next time as well. And that does finalize my report for tonight. Thank you.
Yeah. Any questions or comments? And you had shared with us sort of a decision analysis matrix
Yeah, that was something we were thinking about maybe to help
to
frame
think through the
conversation.
DEI coordinator position.
Yeah, because there will be a variety of different approaches, and we just wanted to kind of look through the merits of each approach. So we'll have an opportunity to talk about that next time.
Okay, thank you. And next is, Board of Education Committee reports. I know we have advocacy and
Yes.
community engagement.
Do we have any others? Or policy we're going to talk about later? We did
I can
have-
talk about policy, but
When we get
In the
when we get to
policy section,
policy.
yeah. So we had our first advocacy and community engagement committee meeting on Friday, the 21st. And just to review, since we talk a lot about our mission, the mission of the Community Engagement and Advocacy Committee is to evaluate and improve two-way communication with the community and to advocate for the educational interests of our students in public education. So we did some great introductions. We're lucky to have such a wonderful group this year. And then we took some time to talk about the 3 subcommittees of this larger committee that we are breaking the work into so that we can meet the mission. One being advocacy, which will work closely with Dr. Champ and with Natalie Marrero to focus on the state advocacy issues that we tackle every year ahead of the finalization of the budget. I'm chairing a subcommittee on community engagement, and we're going to work on how to further partnerships with the community and to have more in-person events. And we're going to talk about different strategies for that engagement. And when I was doing my planning for authentic learning with Dr. Bowman, she was bringing up some ideas, and I realized there's some opportunities for overlaps there. So more to come. And then communications review. So I don't know if Alex Wolf is here, but I just want to thank him because I know we mentioned last year that we went out for an RFP for the communications analysis, something that's been talked about now for a couple of years. And we did go out for an RFP to do, I hate the word audit because it's been used in many contexts in our board work, but to do a communications audit. And so this group will help with the RFP process and make a recommendation, and then do the interviews, and then kind of tease apart that work. So let's see. I think that's pretty much it. I think our goal, and lastly, we are going to have a session. What's the date, Dr. Champ, for the, what does, do you want me to
Thank
mention
you.
that or no?
Yes, I think, November 28th.
So on November 28th, and this is more Dr. Champ than our committee, but our committee is going to help. We're going to have a World Cafe session. Is it going to be at the high school?
Yeah, everything, high school cafeteria seat.
At the high school cafeteria, to really hone in on what does academic excellence mean to you. And it's a session for parents. We're having a lot of these sessions throughout the district with other groups of people, but it's a great opportunity. World Cafe has been described to me as like you have a butcher block piece of paper, and you rotate and respond to different questions on the piece of paper. And so this committee will both be having its own small focus group at our next meeting, and then we'll be facilitating those discussions. So we hope you'll be able to join us for the 28th. I think that's pretty much it.
Thank you. And you said the RFP,
For the
Communication
communications
audit.
audit, yeah.
so that, and then I guess Jem will send that out or something, or?
I think that Alex, with the help of the members
Yeah.
of the board who are on that, will then make a recommendation to the board
Okay.
for that.
But the business office, like, prepares that, or?
Yeah, it's a,
Yes, so we put out a public.
We already
RFP,
received the responses.
And
from-
Oh,
then,
you did,
with
okay.
those responses, then they've got the evaluation criteria, and they'll go through a process of evaluation and making a recommendation. We'll work with them on the process to make sure we're following really the way we want to do it in selection of a professional service.
So you're gonna interview the people? or
Yeah,
the
so Will's on that
firms?
subcommittee,
Uh-huh.
but Natalie and I are both on the larger committee as well. So I think I'm envisioning that the 3 of us will be involved in the interviews, and then we'll be confident to make a recommendation to the board.
Okay.
So-
And then they would probably start doing their work this year, or
Yeah,
that's the plan?
yeah. I think the goal is to do the interviews in the next couple weeks. We sort of hightailed the subcommittee process for that particular reason, so
Okay,
got those organized.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
4.3 is Assistant Superintendent's update on authentic learning.
Hello, everybody. I would like to start with a review of our second elementary curriculum night, which was on October 17th. This event was led by Dr. Thompson and Mr. Sabalis. We had our grade 3 to 5 curriculum night again at Prospect Hill. This event was as well attended as the primary grade curriculum night, which is excellent because one of the goals of my office, which Ms. Domenico not alluded to but spoke of earlier, is to really help to increase the partnerships between home and school, and having events like that is exactly what we're looking to do. We are finalized with our elementary report cards. Teachers have access to see what they look like and have been given information on how to enter the evaluations at the end of the marking period. We've started conversations with principals about how to really help our upper elementary students understand what those report cards communicate, but also in the context of making sure that they understand that it is a moment in time and progress towards the end. One of the things about having standards-based report cards is that unlike a percentage, you don't have the same clarity around what it means, even as parents. I know that we all have that. Whereas when a person says a 65 or a 95, we all have, while there is subjectivity to the way we internalize those grades, there is kind of a clarity around what that means. So there is work to be done on that if it's going to be something that students will be able to engage with. Our work with MTSS has continued. We have successfully communicated with each and every one of our interventionists. I'm meeting again with each of the building's MTSS teams to review their process and procedures, to see where they are in the development of their processes. I can tell you, with the different buildings that I have met with, I am very pleased with their progress. There is no such thing as perfection, so they are at different points in their journey, but it is clear to me that there is a very serious dedication to making sure that each individual child has focused interventions when they need it. And what that does is provides opportunities for teachers in the classroom during the IE block to focus their attention on providing enrichment to the students who are ready and capable and need that work as well. A lot of discussions have come up through the MTSS process about building students' stamina and their ability to remain on task and focused for longer periods of time. And I'll be honest, it's a pleasure to have conversations about building students' stamina in classrooms where they're able to have what we would call regular traditional experiences, as opposed to what we've all been dealing with for the last few years. And it's also very refreshing to see how incredibly dedicated and passionate for the work our teachers and our teams are at every turn. We have had multiple meetings with Branching Minds. Most recently, Dr. Callahan and I were able to sit on a Zoom call with one of our consultants to discuss which of the intervention tools we were going to utilize and which of the assessment tools that they have for progress monitoring in between each of our universal screeners would be accessible. And we are then taking that in turn, as I've mentioned, and having professional development. So we're very excited about that work. I do want to take a minute and talk a little bit about the Holocaust survey, the Holocaust instruction survey that we are working toward. That's in conjunction with Dr. Thompson and Mr. Berkowitz, so that there is a consensus between multiple departments about what and when and how different aspects of Holocaust education are taking place. So the district has had in existence a math review committee, which at the end of each year or the beginning of each year reviews progress and performance from the prior year and makes decisions. Clearly, the committee's goals are very important, especially at this time, given what we've discussed in terms of COVID learning loss. We've decided this year to partner that committee with our Authentic Learning Committee. as a subcommittee of that work. And so I'd like to thank Mrs. DeAngelis for agreeing to partner with us and to help us towards that end. The goals of that committee proper with the teachers who are on it will be to, again, review curricular decisions that have been made, create focus areas for teachers to have for this year, but also to make a longer-term plan on how we're going to ensure that any of the gaps that occurred because of strategic decisions that needed to be made because of reduction in the number of minutes of instruction, and also the mechanisms during COVID, during the hybrid year, and even last year when students were relearning what it means to be a student, are planned and phased in so that our graduates all have the foundational skills that they need to succeed, whether they're moving on to college or career, that they'll have what they need in order to function properly. That's one focus area. The other area, which does lead into our partnership with the Advocacy and Community Engagement Committee, has to do with helping to empower families to really support their kids in their math instruction at home, help to increase communication between school and home, and help to make sure that as much as we know as educators that helps us will help parents. So one small example that does tie into the work session from last week, and if my son is watching, he's going to be mad at me, but that's okay. He's in 8th grade taking algebra, and we have an app. I have parental controls set up on my iPhone that if he wants any app, I have to approve it, which start right there. That's a learning that we could bring from the work session to some parents may not know that that's something that you can do. He asked me, can I get this app called Photomath? I was a little suspicious and utilized my resources and called Dr. Callahan and said, what is this Photomath app that my son would like to get to help him with algebra? Did a little research and found out that the help he would have been provided was that they would take a picture of the problem, whether it was handwritten or in text. They would solve it, send him back all of the steps, step by step, so that all he would need to do is copy and paste. I believe that Dr. Callahan has been very explicit about the fact that there have been apps out there that have done that work, which have made it very difficult, if not impossible, to detect whether a student's learning is in fact their learning. And we had a firsthand example of that. One of the things that I'm hoping we can do is to provide information to parents who may not know that. I'm fortunate. I mean, I've been in education for a lot of years, and he's my third child, and I wasn't aware. I was fortunate to have that, let me see, moment and direct access to a professional. You know, not everybody is in that position, and all I had to do was press accept, and then there goes our Regents grade at the end of the year. So we're looking to do something like that. Finally, because of COVID required reductions to curriculum, in order to fit the daily schedule, both virtually and in hybrid, we are, under the leadership of Dr. Callahan, engaged in a review and development of a timeline so that we can give a prediction for when we expect all of that learning to be folded back in. I want to move on for a second and talk about our art department, who has, if you've been up and down Wolf's Road, you'll see they've done a phenomenal job of showcasing the artistic talents and the dedication and the work of the art students. Over the course of I think it was a week before Halloween, it might have been 2 weeks before Halloween, the morning was spent really having students showcase their talents. There was an incredible amount of planning that went in by Ms. Fallon and Mrs. Walls. And I just want to take a minute, if you haven't seen it, take a look. Everybody's going to have their favorites. There was a theme of fairy tales, but also tie it in, if possible, to the storefront that you are beautifying in your artwork. And so you'll see some excellent, excellent artwork there. We have our second PLC day tomorrow, I'm excited to report, and so our teachers across the district and across grade levels will be working on a professional problem of practice that is directly tied to their own personal professional growth. They will have hours worth of work that they are able to do under the supervision of their department heads and or building principals so that they have an opportunity to really hone their craft and become much more authentic learners in their own right. Because I think at the end of the day, the one thing that we can all agree on is that if we want to build student learning, then we have to model that. And this is one of the wonderful opportunities that I have to say is somewhat different here than in other areas, that this opportunity is available on a regular basis. We do have such limited time to provide professional development to our teachers that having this part of our calendar, while it's difficult in some ways to schedule, and certainly for parents, it might sometimes create a little bit of a challenge on Wednesdays, for the payoff in the end in what our teachers are given the opportunity to do is really something that we should all be very proud of, and I'm excited to be part of. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? I do want to just echo what you said about the photo math, because I was really amazed to hear when we had the discussion about that this app exists and seems to be, from Googling it, it's pretty widely known among students that you literally take a picture of your algebra problem and it does it for you.
Yep.
So you could imagine if you did all your homework that way, you might not have learned much at the end of your homework, right?
I think that that's an understatement. You would not have learned anything, because there's one of the key principles of mathematics instruction is the productive struggle, and you, in essence, remove any part of that from the experience if all you're doing is literally copying what someone else has done for you. You're not having any of that cognitive dissonance that's going to create the growth opportunity. So, you know, without those experiences, whether home, independently, or in school, our students won't learn and they won't grow. And more importantly, well, maybe not more importantly, but equally importantly, that idea of, you know, grit and being able to, what my mother would call stick-to-itiveness, is really not developed in that content at all if they're not given those opportunities to struggle. So, yeah.
And I had just Googled, and on their website, photomath.com or whatever, they have frequently asked questions. One of the questions is Photomath a cheating app?
I'm sure they say no.
No, they don't. They say, you know, our technology can be used in many different ways, but they
Oh,
don't
wow.
say no. So I think it's something that parents really need to be aware of.
Yeah.
I was discussing it with a parent this weekend, and they said they actually used it to help their student with math, which I thought might be a good use for it, so that they can help their kid go through a problem.
Sure, on a parent's device,
Yeah.
it's a completely different tool. But again, that goes back to the conversation from the work session. Technology utilized in one way is a tool, in another way, it's a handicap.
Yeah.
I just wanted to echo, switching back to the art students, I was privy to watching some artists hard at work it was actually the whole day.
The entire day, wow.
They sent me a selfie that they were at the beginning of the day, and they were still there at the end of the day. And it was so much fun to watch them in action, and then to see the students who were out for lunch going to kind of hang out with their friends and, you know, participate in the experience a little bit, and then further to have the middle school art students chaperoned by parents doing sort of a walking tour of the work towards the end of the day. It was just, I don't know, it was just such a great, like, a truly authentic learning experience in our town.
Okay, thank you. 4.4, Assistant Superintendent's update on the whole child.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. So this time of year, Dr. Champ has asked a lot of us to talk about our goals, and in terms of special education, one of the goals that I have is to ensure that our special education staff and related service providers really understand student need and the ideology of that need, so that they better know how to intervene and support, which also drives their specially designed instruction. So we're also very excited about the opportunity to have time during PLC days to get some work done where we can have consultants work with our teachers to really dive into some of the assessments that they could utilize to better understand student needs. So during our first PLC day on October 19th, our district consultant and neuropsychologist, Dr. Alyssa Vandermerver, met with our elementary special education teachers to train them on the use of an assessment that tool that can help evaluate students more deeply in the area of writing. This is a partner tool that the teachers have already been trained in in regards to the area of reading, and then eventually we're also going to get to the last partner of this tool, which has to do with math. During this PLC date tomorrow, also Dr. Vandermeer and her associate, who is a specialist, a reading specialist, Ms. Salveria, is going to provide professional development to our secondary special education teachers. The goal of that work tomorrow is really going to be a deeper dive on effective goal writing and making sure that how we're collecting data and writing our goals are effective and will be able to provide us measures on student performance. On October 27th, our co-teach consultants met for the second of their 5 secondary coaching sessions. And as previously shared, the initial focus of the secondary co-teach coaching has been our 6th grade math co-teach teams. During this coaching session, she specifically worked with teachers on students' math goals, progress monitoring on those goals, data collection, and the specific application of one of the co-teaching models, station teaching, in a math co-teach class. This Thursday, Dr. Ribeiro and myself will be presenting at the SEPTA meeting, which will be held 6 p.m. In the library here, and we're looking forward to talking to our parents about special education, some of the basics, the nuts and bolts, the ins and outs, answer some questions about parent members, what their roles are, the difference between IEP and 504. So I hope to see everybody on this Thursday. In the area of wellness, Mr. Ricky and I attended a full-day professional development on threat assessment that was given by Southern Westchester BOCES. It was, the professional development was given by BOCES and a state trooper, but Alteris was there, and they were present to offer commentary throughout the presentation. Alteris is the company that we consult with for our district safety. The presentation was based on a research-based model that was developed by a forensic clinical psychologist called Dr. Dewey Cornell, and it's called a CSTAG model. And what's interesting to me about it from a student wellness and mental health perspective is, you know, in the business, we tend to have a very good understanding at this point about things like suicide prevention, but the flip side to that coin, which has to do more with student violence, we're starting to learn more about and what we can do as far as prevention and assessment around that. So this CSTAG model, it's a model that Alteris uses and has done a mini PD with our administrative teams and support staff. And again, talking about one of the ways that we might utilize this when we think about students who present in a way where we're concerned about behavioral threats. This past Monday, October 24th, Mr. Berkowitz, Ms. Sabia, Mr. Farrell, and along with select secondary support staff, participated with me in a virtual visit to Yorktown High School. This was a visit we had planned to do in person, but something changed, so we made it a virtual visit. And I wanted to connect our team with Yorktown High School because I know they're a little bit further in their DBT models and what they do at a Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 level. So it was just a good opportunity for our secondary team to see how they have unfolded things in their school, how they're providing Tier 1 interventions, and something for us to think about how we might, may or may not want to apply a similar approach in Pelham. Also, I don't want to steal any thunder from Dr. Owen-Shane, but Dr. Garcia and I also did attend a PD on some Title IX updates. We're working through that with the policy committee based on some changes that have been made in Title IX. We will have to update our district policy, and we're working with legal to make sure that all of that is appropriate, and it will run through the policy committee. In terms of school counseling, Dr. Champ and I did have the opportunity to meet with the high school counseling department on October 17th as part of Dr. Champ's deep dive with stakeholders about excellence and what does excellence mean. The counselors shared their belief on supporting students to meet higher goals, encouraging students to take risks, making sure we're encouraging students to step out of their comfort zone. They shared that they feel a one-size-fits-all approach doesn't work, that we do need to make sure that we consider individual student profiles. That's critical. They agreed that a definition of excellence has to include a social-emotional component, with students not just leaving Pelham college eligible, but college ready. We discussed the need to work on students' sense of belonging. That's work we will also do through our wellness and explore through our wellness committee. And wanting to make sure that students who move through Pelham understand ways how to connect. And we also talked about ways that the counseling department can better communicate to the community what they are doing, and again, to that communication piece. Are we doing a good job explaining what is happening behind the scenes that the community may or may not be aware of? They shared also the high school club was very well attended. There were over 65 clubs represented, and the importance of that is also making sure that there's something for every student. And that is it for me.
Great, thank you. Any comments or questions? No. Next is Executive Director's update on human resources and leadership.
Yes, good evening. So over the past few weeks, there's been a flurry of activity with human resource administrators in every school district in the state. And it really circled around a law that was passed early in the year, which centered around a healthcare worker bonus program. So the healthcare worker bonus program allows for the payment of bonuses, and the purpose is to recruit, retain, and reward healthcare and mental hygiene workers meeting specified eligibility requirements. And then bonus are related to the number of hours they work in the school or per week, and it could be up to $3,000 per eligible worker. What's interesting about this is that we talk about unfunded mandates. This is actually a mandate, but it's funded. But there's a trick to it, and that's where we kind of came in as a school district. So we had to gather a lot of information and data, and with the help of Jim's office, through Jackie Vigil, we were able to identify all those eligible employees in the district, and really centers around recognizing frontline workers, healthcare workers during the pandemic. I think that was the ultimate purpose of it. So we looked at data regarding our nurses, our psychologists, speech and language pathologists, our physical therapists, occupational therapists, and social workers, and if they met certain criteria, they had to attest that they want this bonus and that they gave us some information so that we can then submit it to the state. So the due date was, for this vesting period, was yesterday. So apparently there was already one vesting period, which was a few months ago, and not too many people in schools knew about that. So luckily they allowed schools to submit for vesting periods 1 and 2 yesterday. And one thing we should understand is that this begins a 3-year process, to be honest with you. So there are going to be 5 vesting periods starting all the way back from October 2021, and our last vesting period to submit is March of 2024. So we're going to be submitting information. If you're like a new employee who doesn't even exist here yet, but you may work here and you may qualify in 2023 and 24, and you were not here during the pandemic and you didn't serve our kids, you still may be eligible for a bonus. So understand we'll be living this for the next few years. What we do is when we submit the information to the state, they will then tell us whether we submitted it correctly, but then notify the business office and also myself. They will give us the money, right, and then there will be a funding of those individuals through the district, but it's from state funds, so they get their bonus. So it's a little convoluted. It's not district money, but they will provide the money for us from the state. It was just kind of awkward. We've never really seen this before, so I don't know if Jim's seen it. A lot of time, yeah. But let's just say that our employees who deserve it, they were asking a lot of questions, right? They want to make sure that they receive their bonus. So I'm happy to say that we did submit the information, and by the way, even if we missed someone or we didn't get the right data, we can resubmit again in April. So I just want to let the board know and also the community know that it's great recognition for all the hard work that was done during the pandemic for those employees. On the board agenda, I think it's Schedule E, a lot of our new board members may not understand it, but twice a year, by contract, teachers can submit for salary reclassification. And what that means, by contract, after they completed 3 years in the school district, they may move over salary lanes. And it's based on professional development credits that they may have earned. For every 15 credit increments, they can move. But you have to take at least 9 graduate credits towards that 15. All those credits are based on some graduate work, of course, but also some in-service work. Some match up with 6 credits and 9 makes 15. That's reviewed by the supervisors and the administrators, and then finally I approve it, and then Dr. Champ does. It takes a while to sort of accrue that time. Of course, 3 years in the district. In your 4th year, you may apply for salary classification, and that's what you see tonight. That can also, though, that will happen in January as well. We may get people who can reclassify, and that is part of the teacher's contract. And it is really about recognizing their continued professional growth and learning, whether it's district-directed or whether it's things that they do on their own. One other piece, just want to recognize, she's on the agenda again tonight, but back in May, Sally Tedesco announced her resignation, or retirement from the district, excuse me. She served this district in the special education department, PPS department, since January 2006. Her last day is November 11th, and we want to thank her for all the service that she has devoted her time and, of course, all her efforts. She was a former resident here in this district, and she's going to be greatly missed on the agenda. We're seeing if she can join us again in that transition to a new person, so we want to put her on the sub list so that she can help the next person, next iteration in Tracy's office to assist with that transition. But we thank her for her service.
Hey, one question, Steve.
Yes, sir.
The new law kicking in requiring salaries to be put in job descriptions.
Oh, I did not.
Is that,
Well, I didn't see that. It was I did not
It's
hear
only
that.
in New York City, right?
I didn't know that, so maybe that's New York City. In Westchester County, there was a law that was passed a couple years ago saying we cannot ask for that information in applications. There used to be a spot for it. We changed that, I think it was around 2019, so I'll do some more research on that too, see if it impacts us.
Yeah.
And I think it's New York City.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's New York City, it went into effect today.
So we updated our applications a few years ago for Westchester County because it was, localized for us that we cannot ask for salary, their current salaries. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Next is Assistant Superintendent's update on finance and facilities.
Hi, thank you, and good evening. It's good to go last, too. Tracy did a great job of explaining our great training on threat assessment and the comprehensive school threat assessment guidelines. I think it's, again, really, really great training, part of, again, building capacity within the district. We've had an opportunity now for our administrative group, had an opportunity at secondary level to have, all the administrators last year had an opportunity for that training. Secondary have had an opportunity again this year, along with our support staff. And again, we're gonna keep that training and keeping up that capacity to try to build that district-wide. So it was good. It's helpful. And then as more things come out, we again look to expand our training offerings and build district-wide safety capacity. This week it's been interesting in the business office for business people. We've been busy with internal audit. With the agreed-upon procedures internal audit for the annual work is in process right now, as well as the annual work for our risk assessment. So the internal auditors have been on site. They've been interviewing people. They've been calling folks. They've been going through documentation, all part of our annual process. Once they complete that work, they'll work first with our audit committee, and then that work, of course, comes before the board for final presentation and action when it's all said and done as part of our annual work. So it's been a good process, and again, it's important for all school districts to do it. It's part of the great work that happened, and I say that sarcastically, what happened out in Roslyn many years ago, which now really forces or requires all school districts to have an internal audit function. And it's important, though, and it does provide a value to the district, and I think we're fortunate that we look at it as a value-added process. On this evening's agenda, there's 2 items related to change orders. One is a smaller item. It's a notification for $3,900 There's a second one for $42,000. And you may say to yourself, and we're asking your requesting your permission for approval for that particular change order. And if you've listened to me over the last few years, I've gone on and on saying that for change orders under $50,000, they're notifications, and really that's the only process. This particular change order, though, we're being kind of conservative on how we want to present this to the board. This is really connected to a prior change order that happened over the summer. It has to do with the wall that's at the corner of the Hutchinson site by Lincoln and Third. We had some work done at the summer to make sure that that wall could be stabilized and that the work up on the field could be completed for the summer. The work that we're asking for tonight is to make that wall to look nice. So when you combine them, it's $86,000. It's over $50,000. The board does not have to approve it. Obviously, you could choose not to do it, and the wall could stay there, and everything is safe, and we'll plant some ivy on it or something to cover up that wall. But this is an opportunity for us to take care of that, and for that reason, that's why it's before the board as a request for the change order versus a notification, which would what would happen on some of the other items. Also in tonight's agenda, there's a notification to the board for students that attend, the out-of-district students that attend the school district schools based on tuition. It's approximately 82 students. They come really from 4 different categories. We could have students of employees, and we can have students who are part of New York City, and New York City pays their tuition. We can have students from out-of-district who make an application to be students here and pay tuition. And then we do have some special education students from other school districts. We provide a special education program for our students, and then we have excess capacity, and with that, we're able to provide that services to students from other school districts. So the annual policy requires a notification, and this is part of that annual notification that you'll receive. And you can see the annual revenue is about $1 million per year. We did have a maintenance mechanic has resigned, Mr. Anthony Palma. We want to wish him good luck. Mr. Palma took a facilities position with Hawthorne Cedar Knolls, so we certainly wish him success in his progression and moving forward towards his career goals. So we're very happy to see that. He's been with us since 2015. And then also on this evening's agenda, we have 2 treasurer reports from August and September. As you look at them, one thing you'll see, or you may not notice, but we're noticing, and I think you're hearing a lot more about it, is interest rates. We're seeing it with mortgages. We're seeing it with car loans, with credit cards. We're also seeing it with our interest earnings. So going back and looking at where we are, we're seeing rates or interest rates to where we were about 14 years ago, back in 2008. So we're seeing increases. So that's if there's a silver lining in anything for us, that's something we're seeing on the revenue side. Certainly, we're feeling it in different areas with utilities, and that's really one area, and fuel, which is where we're seeing it in other categories. But what we're doing is we work with our main bank, and then we also have other facilities that we're able to use. We're not generally going to see the same returns that homeowners are going to see. We're bound by certain requirements. All of our deposits have to be 100% collateralized. So very safe investments, and that's the most important thing that we have to do with taxpayer dollars. But we fortunately are going to be seeing a greater return, which is nice. And when we do our forecast, we'll see that for the first forecast of this year. And then as we develop our budget, that's an additional revenue source that comes into play as we put together the revenue side of the budget and the expense side of the budget. So those are good things that are happening and that we're looking at on the Treasury side of what we do. Let's see, I got yield. We have a couple of transfers tonight. Really, that's a function of making sure we have the budgeted dollars in the right place where people are now working. When we put together the budget again, we're talking that happened in the January timeframe. Some time has passed since then. Personnel move. They come and they go. And as we look at it, that transfer is really about moving the dollars that we have already in salaries from one location to another. And I think that's all I have for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is 5.1, communications and comments from the public. Yeah. If you could just say your name and address.
Hi, I'm Lisa Schaefer, 110 Corona Avenue, and I'm here with...
Hi, I'm Sarah McKee, 156 Cliff Avenue.
Hi, I'm Kim Espinoza, 390 Washington.
Members of the board, Dr. Champ, and members of the administration. On behalf of the Colonial Diversity Committee, I have undersigned parents, over 60 signatures, caregivers and alums of Colonial, and together with past and present leadership of Colonial's PTA, I stand here tonight to ask that you take decisive action to put an end to the racism, hate, and bias that students are experiencing in our schools. Last Monday, Dr. Champ issued a statement notifying the community that a swastika was found in a stairwell at the high school. By many accounts, the notice we received was commendable. We were notified of the incident promptly. Dr. Champ unequivocally condemned this act of hate and bias, stated in no uncertain terms that symbols of anti-Semitism have no place in our schools, and confirmed that an investigation by local law enforcement had been initiated and responsible parties, if identified, would face consequences according to the district's code of conduct. There was something disturbing, however, beyond the subject matter of that statement. It was uncomfortably familiar. In fact, the Colonial PTA was here addressing the board exactly 1 year ago because of a different act of racism found on school property, asking that the district take decisive action. We refuse to accept this as the new normal. We recognize that adults and children have been emboldened nationwide to voice racist ideology, discriminate against those they perceive to be different, and commit acts of violence against others based on race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, religion, etc. We have witnessed that Pelham is not immune from racism, homophobia, xenophobia, or white supremacy. But our schools must stand as safe havens against this intolerance. Last year, we asked that the district implement its DEI policy, train teachers, and have meaningful conversations with students teaching them what hate speech is and that it won't be tolerated. We asked that a DEI professional be engaged to steer the district in these efforts and ensure that DEI is front and center in each building. We all agree that hate has no place in our schools. The last Board of Education election confirmed that our community is united in its desire to support diversity and inclusion in our schools and a budget that includes a DEI coordinator role. Today, we urge the board to follow through on this mandate by prioritizing this work, as the need is clearly pronounced and urgent, starting with the immediate onboarding of a DEI professional. Beyond this, many of our newly elected board members ran on a platform of accountability, communication, and transparency. We ask that the board deliver on those commitments, not just around testing and academic achievement, but on the implementation of the district's DEI policy and the benchmarking of progress made against its goals. Members of the board, what are the actionable measures the district is undertaking to eliminate acts of hate, racism, and bias from Pelham schools? We are here to support the process however we can. Let's not allow history to repeat itself yet again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Esteemed board members, Maryut Herzog, 219 Hudson Street, speaking as a mom, as well as PTA president of the high school and board member of the Pelham Jewish Center. First, I want to thank Dr. Champ for immediately reaching out to Rabbi Resnick so that he could reach out to our teens and tweens that go to the schools here, and that year after year consider this type of act to just increasingly make them feel that they're in a hostile environment. It is not nice to go to a school that you feel that you do not belong, that people in your town are basically saying, you are not one of us, you do not belong. Certainly, and Mr. Berkowitz reached out to me as PTA president as well, and I really appreciate that immediacy of that type of response, because that is something new and really important in a district like this that is overall considered a very caring community. Unfortunately, I apologize, the speech that I wrote, my battery died. So the most important thing is that when something gets repeated, it's no longer a mistake, it's a behavior. And so that is the concern, that whatever can be done, certainly the PTA supports teachers in your efforts for education, Holocaust education, whatever we can help in terms of funding if necessary, to ensure that the resources are there for education, to support the kids in how to be allies, and the teachers, and that students also feel that their teachers are allies, that they do not feel somehow that having a different last name that is not easy to pronounce, having a first name that's not easy to pronounce, that they are not being teased by their teachers as well as students for differences, but instead differences should be cherished. We live next to the greatest city in the world. This is why I moved to this town, because of its proximity to a cosmopolitan environment, and I hope that that cosmopolitan aspect can now, especially as things can open, be celebrated and we not be a parochial society. So again, thank you for doing everything that you can. I'd like to stand with Colonial in their statement, because they worded everything beautifully, that obviously there is a need for support. Certainly even in our synagogue, when asked, what do you do when you find a swastika? How do you respond? This is something that the Anti-Defamation League can help our schools with. I know the No Place for Hate is one of the ADL's programs, and whatever can be done to help teachers, I think as well, be allies, not just students. I always thought that it's really important to help kids know, how do you respond when somebody tells a racist joke? This is something that we don't really talk about, but actually it is important to say, how do you shut something down quickly? How do you really show how you're an ally? And that you won't, and that this town does not accept that sort of behavior. Of course, most of the time, a person, these students are only in school a certain number of hours a day. So, the majority of what they learn is at home, but we can only do what we can as a district. And I thank you for thinking about all the work that you have been to date. Was fabulous so far. Very excited about what is to come, but I'm really scared. It's really a scary thing. You may not realize how terrifying it is to be a mother of a Jewish child when you think that there are people running around this school who hate them with such vitriol that they have to draw things. Their hate has to come out in some way. Well, what's going to come next? And to be in a synagogue that is in a neighborhood, at any moment we could be under attack. And so your work is really important, especially mental health support, I think, is one of the key aspects to this. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, all right, thank you. Section 6 is financial reports and motions. Maybe we could do 6.1 through 6.3 as a consent agenda, the treasurer's reports and budget transfers. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions? You explained it pretty well. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed, any abstentions? No. 6.4 and 6.5 are change orders. Maybe we can do those together. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Do you want to say anything else about that?
No, again, one is to accept, or to accept receiving the change order. The other one is to accept the change order. And again, when combined with the
Yeah.
previous one, that's why we're above the $50,000 threshold.
And you said it's the retaining wall that's for the pocket? park?
Exactly, about where the pocket park is. It's not an attractive wall right now. What the work will entail is closing in the voids and then taking the plaster off of that wall, facing it, and it'll look much nicer than how it looks right now.
Is that the same wall that has that little painting that's still there?
It does. That was an
Are we
interior
gonna be
part of
able
the
to
building.
keep it, or no?
That's the plaster that's
Oh.
going.
I was like, what a nice little artifact of the old school right there, but
Yeah.
perfectly placed. All right, take pictures.
It's one of those things that was found when the building came down.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? Maybe we can do 6.6 through 6.9 as a consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And second?
Second.
Thank you, Natalie. Any comments or questions?
My only question was, this seems like the UN trip to Brown University. We haven't seen this on the agenda in a while, so
Yeah.
it's exciting to see that we have trips.
Yeah. and I think
Planned
This
soon.
trip originally had been planned to Montreal, but for a variety of reasons, and passports being part of it, they've chosen a different location.
Okay.
But we're really excited to have them starting to go back out in person.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? 6.10 is a motion to accept donations. I'll read the motion. Resolved that upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education of the Pelham Union Free School District does hereby accept the donation of a half-size cello instrument to support the district's orchestra program in the elementary schools, and that gratitude be bestowed upon its donor, Diane Renwick. Thank you. Be it further resolved that upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education of the Pelham Union Free School District does hereby accept the donation of $2,940 to be used to purchase books for the Siwanoy School Birthday Book Club, which celebrates the students' birthdays by gifting books in their names, and that gratitude be bestowed upon their donor, the Siwanoy School community. It's always nice to get a donation, and I know we've gotten a lot of very good birthday books from the Siwanoy Library.
Yes, in many years,
So-
yes.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? Thank you, Natalie. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? No. Okay. 7 is policy monitoring and governance. And we did have a policy meeting, and we have the first reading of one policy. So the policy that's on the agenda tonight is 8260, Title I, Parent and Family Engagement. This has a very minor change from the previous policy, just one word change.
Literally one word, yes.
We did hear if the advocacy committee would like to be aware to let our state officials know, district employees spent 50 to 60 hours on an audit that resulted in a one-word change to a policy. But this policy has to do with parents being involved in the provision of Title I services, and we changed the word may to will have a parent committee, we already had a parent committee, so it was just the one word change. So, we don't need to vote on this policy, right? It's just,
Correct. Yeah, I think at the second reading.
In fact,
we
you
can
can't
waive.
vote, right?
we can't vote tonight.
Right.
And just to kind of summarize the rest of our meeting, we discussed the 504 grievance policy, specifically appeals as our policy, and the 504 is regarding disabilities, correct, that affect,
Accommodation plan.
yeah.
Accommodation plan, building accommodation plans.
And unlike some of our other policies, there is currently an appeal to the board as sort of a final appeal. And we were discussing whether that's consistent with other districts and if we should keep that.
Right.
So I don't know if anyone has any strong feelings about that, but we're not ready to present a policy right now.
Yeah, we were going to go back to the attorneys and see what their advice is from other districts and their
Mhm.
experience.
We also reviewed the transportation policy, which had come up, and some options to some of the things that have been discussed in prior meetings.
Right.
And we're going to review that further with the
Mhm.
attorney. And as Ms. Holtz mentioned, we're reviewing Title IX, so more to come. Okay. Section 8 is superintendent's personnel recommendations. Maybe we can do 8.1 through 8.5 as a consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Jackie and Jessica. Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? No. 9, pupil personnel services. I think we can do 9.1 and 9.2 as a consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? 10, new business? No. 11 is communications and comments from the public. And
Covered that.
nobody's, so, adjournment?
Dr. President, will you entertain a motion to adjourn?
Yes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, any abstentions? No. Thank you.